Thank you all for tuning in. The following is a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch III, coming to you live from the palatial home studios of Bald Spots Productions here in the beautiful city of Malden, Missouri. And joining me live from a more than acceptable safe social distance in the beautiful city of Manitoba. Right? It's the city of Manitoba. No, wait. Yeah, the city of Manitoba? No.
City of Winnipeg, province of Manitoba,
City
country
of
Winnipeg,
Winnipeg, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and is Alyson Shane, the owner of was it Starling? No,
Starling Social. That's right.
Starling Social. Yes, there we go. I can occasionally remember things. I haven't drilled that many holes in my brain. Not yet, anyway.
Nailing it.
Nailing it. That's right. So, Alyson, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. It's nice outside. I got a cat in my lap. I have a coffee that my husband made for me. Bless his heart. And I'm talking to you. Couldn't be better.
Yay! I'm so excited. Well, to kick things off, I always ask the same question now. What are you reading?
Ooh, I am reading an excellent book called The Remains of the Day. I forget the author's name. He's a very famous, he's a Japanese British author. I've been going through this phase. I've been reading a lot of Japanese authors lately. And the book is an analysis of a butler. So the character is a butler who served in an old timey, like a Downton Abbey-ish type of household. And he's like going on a road trip through England and reflecting on his time as a butler. And apparently the author, I can't remember his name right now. I'll see if I can look it up after. He was talking about how the servant class during that period made up such a huge part of like the economy in places like Great Britain. And he's like, but there's almost no written like recollections, memoirs, anything from how these people lived, how they thought, what their life was like. And he wanted to do an exploration of that. And it's been a wonderful read so far. I'm really enjoying it.
Kazuo Ishiguro.
That's right. There we go. Thank you for looking it up because I would have totally butchered that.
I actually spent a little time in Okinawa, Japan, as a kid.
Ooh, like living there?
Living there. We lived there for about a year. And,
I'm so jealous. I went to Japan earlier this year. I loved it.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I'd love to go back as an adult and see how it's different. Of course, Okinawa is considerably different from mainland Japan, but they do speak Japanese, and there's some cultural stuff. But I learned a lot about the cooking and the culture and a little bit of the language. I can still remember how to count to 10 and how to ask for things. Or not for things, how to ask where things are. So and the difference between a toilet and a benjo.
Okay, that one I need to hear. Can you say that for me?
Okay. Well, you do know what the difference between the two are, right? The toilet is like our American Canadian. I assume Canadian toilets are similar, if not identical, to American toilets. It's a little above ground thing that you can sit yourself down on. A benjo is a hole in the ground. Now it's not the same as a kind of, except it's flat. It's flush against the ground. And
I know what you're talking about. I've used it other places.
Yeah, they're supposed to be very healthy for you. But to ask for one for a toilet, it would be toire, and of course a benjo is benjo, and then you say doko desu ka?
Yeah,
So
so
toire
where's the
doko desu
toilet?
ka? Where's the toilet? And yeah,
I love that.
and so yeah,
I love it.
I
I
grew up
love it
in,
like that's
well, yeah, I don't know why I remember that. Just because it was, and of course, how to say thank you and good afternoon and that kind of thing. But politeness. I'm really bad at languages, but I try to focus on learning how to say polite things like please and thank you and hello and that kind of stuff, and at least make the effort that I can. But yeah, the reason I grew up,
yeah.
the reason I was in Okinawa, this was middle school, so this would have been either sixth or seventh grade. Now I don't remember. Um, but no, I'm sorry. It was eighth grade. It was eighth grade. That's right.
Mhm.
Because the school that I had been in the United States, eighth grade meant high school. Down there in San
Mm,
Diego, the middle school did sixth and seventh. The elementary school did through fifth. The middle school did six and seven, and
mhm,
then the high school took over at eighth. But when we moved
mhm.
to Okinawa, eighth grade was back to elementary school.
Hmm,
So,
weird.
yeah, yeah, but I was a military brat. So my father was in the Navy at the time, and he did a stint with the Marines, and then later on he switched over to the Army, and so
Mhm.
got to see a little bit of the world, a lot of the United States, and all. But yeah, so I've tried to learn how to be polite, and it goes a long way with a lot of people. But
Absolutely, especially yeah, especially if you're traveling, like, my husband and I are the same way. I
mhm.
wouldn't say I'm bad with languages per se. I grew up speaking French. I went to an all
Ah,
French, like, all the way through school, like, full French immersion. It's
how
somewhat
very
common in
Canadian of
Canada.
you.
Um, very, like, yeah, tellement canadienne. Um, so, yeah, so I grew up speaking French. My conversational French is not very good anymore. I don't really use it day to day, but I can still
Hmm.
fully understand it and I can read it. But yeah, when we go traveling, like, please, thank you, things like that,
Hmm.
little bits. I will say we were in Japan for a month earlier this year, and
Nice.
we thank you. Yeah, it was really good. I have been wanting to go to Japan since I was a little girl, so it was very much like a dream come true for me, and I'm obsessed now. Like I only need to go back to Japan. Like the rest of the world is cool. I only need to go back and eat, just walk around is my vibe.
Yeah.
But so we
Eat a
had
little
been to
sushi, play a little
like we went to
pachinko.
Thailand. Hey, we tried pachinko and we suck. Like we were not good at pachinko. Have you been to a modern pachinko parlor? Like,
No.
have you seen these online? They're okay, they're not like the quaint little wooden like dook, 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 the little things that you would think. This is like an arcade. Every
Yeah.
machine has like it's a slot. It looks like a slot machine, and it's got like a big anime character, like a Gundam, or some like really hot busty lady like leaning over the pachinko
Right.
screen. And there's all these like flashing things. Like if you have if someone listening to this is like the neurodivergent type that gets very overstimulated by flashing lights and things like that, don't even go. Just like walk by, cover your eyes,
Right.
avert. And it's very confusing. My husband was like, "Let's go play some pachinko," and we did a couple of games. Completely lost our money. I think we got enough to do like an extra game, and then immediately left feeling very stupid. It was fun, but I feel like a lot of so we had been through Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And
Okay.
most of those places, you can kind of get by, like you were saying, like, hello, thank you, goodbye, please. You kind of learn a couple little phrases here and there
Hmm.
as you're going around. And we were really used to that. And then we got to Japan and none of this we accidentally we started off in sorry, I'm gonna say it. I'm trying to teach myself Japanese and I'm trying to learn to speak it with the right like intonation or with the right like
Intonation.
pronunciation rather
Yeah.
intonation, thank you. And then I was saying this the other day and my friend who speaks Japanese was like, you sound like an old Japanese man, which is not my intention. I'm not trying, I'm just trying to be serious. So when we were in Osaka, and the reason, just as a quick aside, the reason that I say in English, we would go like Osaka. And the reason that I try and say Osaka is because when we were in Tokyo, we were drinking at this bar in Golden Gai, which is like this very old part of Tokyo. It's got all these like little tiny bars all along like these very narrow old timey streets. And we were drinking in this bar, and this guy serving us was like, where you from? Where you've been? And I said, oh, we just came from Osaka. And he's like, Osaka. And I'm like, Osaka. And he's like, pours me a shot of tequila. And he's like, so we do the shot of tequila, and he's like, Osaka. And I go, Osaka. And he's like, pours me another shot. We do the next shot. And he's like, Osaka. So I have this like burned into my brain. But so when we were in Osaka, we accidentally stayed in a part of town that is not very touristy. It's like tourist central adjacent. So not a single sign in English. Like Google Translate wasn't helping. And we, like I said, in the other like Southeast Asian countries we'd been to, you can kind of get by even if you don't speak the language. You can sort of, point or muddle through or what have you. Japan was not like that. It was very like the language barrier was strong. Yeah. And one of the reasons that I'm trying to teach myself Japanese now is because, as I said, I want to go back. And I want to go back. And we have some friends who live there, and they, of course, speak fluent Japanese. And the biggest thing that they say is when a foreigner shows up and speaks any modicum of Japanese to them at all, they get extremely impressed with you. And that's what I want. I want to show up and impress somebody. So that's been my little side project, is trying to like slowly teach myself Japanese. So I can go back and wow some folks in.
Yeah. I ran into that with Koreans as well.
Oh yeah.
When years ago I was doing professional photocopying. I was putting records onto actual microfilm, and not as a spy, but I'd serve a subpoena for records, and I'd have a little machine and the little camera, and I'd put it through. It was basically making photocopies, but with an actual camera instead of like a Xerox. But I ended up in Koreatown in Los Angeles at a bank, and it was a Korean bank. And I went in, and I did my business, and they're like, okay, you go over there and wait. And I never make assumptions about who can and can't speak what languages, but I heard them speaking a little bit of Korean. And so I said, oh, and I said my little greeting spiel, and it was like, wow, where did you learn to speak Korean? And I'm like, well, I'm not fluent. That's most of what I know, but I was in Korea. And all of a sudden, it was like I'd suddenly changed from the annoying white guy to honored guest. And it was hilarious, the change that happened. I was no longer a bother. and stuff, and I was able to talk about where I'd been and all of those things and my experiences, and yeah, it's amazing how with some cultures it's that way. If you've been to the homeland, then it's a big deal. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. So okay, well, let's talk about Starling Social. Starling. What exactly do you do? What exactly do you do?
Social is I run it.
Right.
Which means that so Starling Social is a full service digital marketing agency. So what that means is we do basically anything related to the digital marketing sphere: social media management, social media ads, pay-per-click advertising, copywriting, content marketing, website development, all that good stuff. It is founded by me, Alyson. Hello, guys. Again, reminder. I've been publishing content online for 22 years. So for those of your listeners, or maybe you yourself, well, do you remember what a GeoCities is?
Yes, I remember GeoCities.
Okay, so when I was a tween, when I was like 12 or so, I had a GeoCities and I was in the back end futzing around with like the HTML and the CSS of my GeoCities when I was 12 years
Okay.
old, because I am a writer and I have
Uh-huh.
needed to write and do just get my thoughts out since I was a kid. So
Okay.
I had a GeoCity, then I had a live journal and a dead journal, because of course you had to have both because that was the
Right.
time. And then that moved from, so LiveJournal went to blogger.com, which then went to WordPress. And now everything I have is hosted by a CMS, like a content management system called
Mm-hmm.
Elephant, that my
Okay.
husband, who is a brilliant software developer, runs and does. So basically, I have been publishing content for more than half my life and have been in the communications ecosystem since before social media existed. Like, I deeply miss blog rolls, like where you would go on someone's website and they just had like a list of their buddies on the side that they like thought you should check out. I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what my background. I always knew I wanted to work in communications. I didn't really know how. I have a degree in rhetoric, writing, and communications from the University of Winnipeg,
Wow.
here in Winnipeg, where I live. So yeah, I studied persuasive language. I am probably the biggest nerd you will ever meet. I love talking about language. I'm very, we do not need to go into politics on this podcast, but I'm fascinated by politics, political
Sure.
speech, things like that, just the way that we talk to each other. And so that is what I bring to my agency, is this like extremely nerdy, high level, like macro level obsession with all things that fall under the communications umbrella, which happens to be, at least in the digital sense, social media, content marketing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, a little bit about us and me, a lot about
Great.
me.
Yeah, I can see there's quite an
Yeah.
extensive blog on starling.social. Um, and all
Mm-hmm.
that's hard to do. Believe me, I know. It's
Honestly,
you go.
I was gonna say, yeah, honestly, Bill, that's the easy part for me. I could sit and hammer out blog posts all day long. Like, writing content and doing that is the easiest part of my job. And unfortunately,
Mhm.
because I'm now running the agency, not the primary thing that I do anymore, which, is a blessing and a curse. But yeah, it's definitely that's like, I could do that all day. A day when I get to sit down and write something for the Starling blog, and I do write the
Mhm.
majority of the content that is on the blog, is like my
Okay.
favorite day of the week.
Well, everybody's a little bit different, but yeah, some of the recent posts I was looking, very helpful stuff. How to write follow-up emails
Oh,
that get
thank
results,
you.
plus 3 examples to help you out. 10 tips to make the most out of
Mhm.
your YouTube advertising strategy. That's one I got to read. 7 habits of highly effective Instagram marketers: the insider's guide to winning at social media marketing. Now, I've never really done anything with Instagram. That's always been a back burner kind of thing. How vital is Instagram these days to a
I
marketing
would say,
strategy?
okay, I definitely want to talk about that, but real quick, I want to give a shout out and credit where it's due. Two of those three posts that you cited were actually
Uh
written
huh.
by our Dynamo senior account manager, Alicia. She
Oh
helps with
wow.
publishing content for the blog. Yeah, she is a total genius. And, I write a lot for the blog, but I want to make sure I give her credit where it's due. So those, the first and the third, what about YouTube I did, but those other two are her. You can tell by the extremely snappy like blog blog titles. But anyway, I review them, we work on them. It's a collaborative process in the sense that I look at it, tell her it's great, and then she publishes it.
Okay.
But bringing it
Well,
back to Instagram, I would,
gotta give her the props for the Stephen Covey reference. Then, or the 7 habits of highly
I
effective Instagram marketers. That's a
I
callback.
was extremely impressed, right? It's, you know what, as a quick aside, I feel extremely fortunate to work with the people that I do. Everyone on my team are so smart. Like, they bring a level of creativity to what they do that supports the agency and like makes
Hmm.
Starling and also me look good. So like, shout outs to them. But yeah, so about Instagram, I hear a lot of people ask me, so like, okay, there's TikTok, and TikTok is obviously eating
Hmm.
everybody's lunch right now.
Yeah,
Is Instagram still relevant?
I don't want to give the Chinese my stuff.
I feel like so we can talk about TikTok if you want. I have thoughts on that. I would say that Instagram is still one of the most valuable marketing tools out there, depending on your audience, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, I mean, you said earlier, you've got a bit of a marketing background here. Where you spend your marketing efforts and time should depend on your audience demographics. So how old are the people you're trying to reach? What kind of
Mm-hmm.
content are you selling? What kind of content do they want to see? And that whole intersection. The reason that I still find Instagram to be a very powerful tool is because it allows a brand or a person to express themselves and to share content in a variety of different ways. TikTok and I guess Snapchat that preceded it are just video, right? It's just vertical video. It's limited in how long you can publish for, etc. And that really limits the type of content you can create. Whereas my husband and I were actually out having dinner talking about this yesterday. He was like, I'm over TikTok. The algorithm isn't serving me up anything new. He's like, I like to go back to Instagram because I like to follow 3D artists. I like to follow different creators. And I don't always want to see, somebody lip syncing the same sound every fourth or fifth video. I want to see, I'm paraphrasing him a little bit, but a more diverse intersection of content. So with Instagram, you have video, of course, you've got reels, you have single image posts, you have carousel posts, there's Instagram stories. You can tell a deeper narrative on your profile through your story highlights. There's a variety of different ways that you can present either your personal or your professional, like B2B, B2C brand on that platform that isn't available in the deeper, more like diverse way on like a TikTok or on like LinkedIn is kind of sort of not quite the same. It's definitely way more niche, but they do have video capabilities. You can upload images. Captions can be really long. They recently got rid of carousel style posting, which kills me as a storyteller because I love a good stick through post. But no, I would say Instagram is still very again, depending on your audience, big grain of salt. But for most people and brands, Instagram is probably the best and easiest way to reach an audience and create content without having to lean 100% on video all of the time, which is hard for a lot of people and time consuming.
Yeah, that's always the big thing is prioritizing your time. I've personally got so much stuff to do. I do these shows, and then I've also got marketing for these, which I have not really been doing at all since coming to Missouri. And then I've got my main job, my main paying job, which is starting a company called Automate You, automateyou.co, which is an AI powered business systems automation service, and then I've also got I'm also going to school. I've started back to school again.
Very exciting.
Yes, very exciting, very full, and then of course Missouri is an interesting part of the world where nothing is close by. I mean, I went from being in Southern California where you could go, if you drove another block down the road, everything would be completely different, to living in southeastern Missouri where if I want anything, I've got to drive at least a half an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like to get to my doctor's office is my primary care is around the corner, which is good, but all the other doctors and whatnot I have to see, it's all 30-45 minutes away.
That's wow. That's quite a hike.
Yeah, it is. I mean, at least in Southern California, when you drove a half an hour, it was still just a block away because of the traffic. But now there's no traffic, so I can't understand why it takes so long to get anywhere. My brain's not cooperating.
There are definitely different parts. So Winnipeg, where I live, it's sprawl. We have we have an issue in the city actually with urban sprawl
Mhm.
because Winnipeg and Manitoba generally, for your listeners who may not know where we are, and that's cool. Most people don't. Most people outside of Manitoba don't know where Winnipeg is.
Right.
And we're like the main one here. Anyway,
Which
but
time zone
so
are
we have
you?
an issue with sprawl because we're at time zone. We're in CST. We're
Oh,
actually
okay.
like if you if you drive like a half an hour out of Winnipeg, you hit the actual geographic center of Canada. It's a beautiful, honestly, it's a beautiful province, but it's very flat. It's a prairie. Apparently a glacier like came and just slid over it millions of years ago and just flattened us out. So where Winnipeg is very flat. And we have an issue with sprawl here because obviously it's easier to build out and cheaper to build out than it is to build up.
Mhm.
So we have a big car culture here in Winnipeg.
Okay.
We have this weird little nuance to our city. I don't know if anywhere else does this. We have something called cruise night. Do you guys have cruise night where you are, or was that a thing in
I
Southern
haven't run
California
in
at all? Do you know?
in California, yes, for sure. There were cruise nights,
Okay.
and I actually belonged to a car club for a while. I own a 2006 Pontiac Solstice, and the last good car
Ooh.
that GM actually made. It's a little
Mhm.
two-seater roadster, convertible top, soft top convertible. It's kind of old school looking. It looks like a little like the old. If you're not familiar with that particular car, if you think of one of the first couple years of the original Corvette, it's kind of in that style. Lot of nice,
Ooh.
beautiful curves and very artistic. It actually, what was funny is usually when they get an artist to do a concept car, they'll take that and then completely mess it up to do the actual production model. The Solstice actually looks like the original concept, which is unusual in the auto industry. But of course,
Hmm.
Pontiac doesn't exist anymore, so they don't make them anymore. But yeah, I
Hmm.
belonged to a car club with them, and we'd go on these huge trips on the twisty roads and in the mountains and by the beach and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't run into that yet here, but I have seen a lot of Kappas, the Pontiac Solstice and the Saturn Sky were the two of those made in
Hmm.
America. And so I've seen quite a few of those. So I'm hoping there's a club nearby, and I'll be able to get back into that. But anyway, you have cruise night.
Cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, okay, ours is not as cool as like taking a windy trip through the mountains. Don't get too impressed. Ours, why did I even, it's so embarrassing. Why did I bring this up? Our cruise night. So we have our one of our main like streets through the city is called Portage Avenue. This is
Uh-huh.
a total bastardization of the French word portage, which is like when you carry your canoe over dry land, you're portaging. That's
Right.
actually how it's supposed to be pronounced. But we don't say it like that because I don't know, Winnipeg don't care. So you portage is a straight line
Neither does
from the
Missouri.
city. Like,
We have a
you know what?
Town
Good. I
out
got a
here
little
called
solidarity there.
Portageville. We have a little town out here called
There you go.
Portageville. So yeah.
Okay, so I have like affinity with you guys. I love that. So Portage Avenue just it goes from the center of the city out to we have a perimeter highway that loops the city. It's exactly what it sounds
Okay.
like. Cruise night is where a bunch of I'm like, there are cool classic cars. I am not a car person myself. I've actually never owned a car despite living in a car city. I'm in a car co-op
Really?
because there's just a bunch of them. Yeah. Um, so the cruise night is literally just driving in one direction and
Uh-huh.
then you turn around and you just go up and down Portage all night long. That's it. And I
Okay.
actually learned recently. Yeah, it's not like I said, it's not as exciting, but people get really into it. And I recently learned that the reason that we have a cruise night in Winnipeg, so we have a legislature that's our like governing body here in the province. So we have like the legislative building. I guess it'd be like the
Hmm.
version of like a capital or something like that, but
Okay.
it's a capital. We have the legislature. So the ledge, as we call it, we actually have a really cool legislative building. It was built by stonemasons and apparently has all these like weird like occulty kind of symbols and like black stars and weird stuff about it. I am totally serious. This is a real thing. There is like a tour
Okay.
you can take of the legislative building where they talk about like masonry and all of this weird stuff. But so we have our legislature, and it kind of sits up on a hill. And in front of the legislature is this big, wide, like kind of U-shaped. I guess now it's just a street, but it goes around the front of the legislature, and you can kind of drive it in a loop if you wanted. But why would you do that?
Right.
Apparently, people used to actually do that back in like when. So Winnipeg, for those who don't know, around the turn of the century, used to be the third city of Canada. So
Ooh.
Toronto and right? Big flex.
Yeah.
So Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal and Calgary are kind of the other bigger cities, right? Winnipeg is kind of down the totem pole. But around the turn of the century, we were actually considered to be like the hottest up and coming city in the country. Like us and Toronto were kind of neck and neck.
Okay.
And apparently, like there used to be big money here. And so what all the bougie, like fancy people in Winnipeg used to do they would drive their or get driven in their carriages. They probably weren't driving them themselves, but they would take
Right.
their carriages to the legislative building and trot around with the horses in a circle to just like show off how nice their carriages are. Somehow that has morphed into driving your car back and forth along Portage Avenue on a Sunday night.
Okay.
You know what? Every city's got its idiosyncrasies, and apparently this is ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a mood. It's a mood. Oh, goodness.
Oh, that's
Freaking
just
cruising.
awesome. That's awesome. Wow. You know, we've been chatting and not done a lot of talk about what you can do for people. I want to make sure we get the promotional side of things, out of the way, and give you some value for your time spending it with me here on the old show. So, what exactly would you say that Starling Social does? What in like a sentence or two?
Starling Social acts as an extension of a business and as an extension of the digital marketing arm.
Okay.
Short, snappy sentence. To expand on that a little bit, if a business, yeah, there you go. Doing my best, writing for the web, trying to keeps it concise.
Yeah.
A slightly longer version of that is if a business is looking for either outsourcing their digital marketing, so social media, ads, pay-per-click, copywriting, blogs, newsletters, anything under that kind of umbrella, we do all of that. We can act as an extension. So a lot of companies don't have a marketing team at all. Like there's nobody on staff. Maybe they have a single marketing manager, but they don't have anybody underneath them. We are that staff. In other cases, for example, we work with a couple larger law firms here in Canada, and we act as they have a full team, but they're overworked. They have too many things on their plate. They don't know where to start. They can't handle it all. They outsource certain parts of it to us, and then they can focus on bigger picture items. For a small independent business owner, it's the same thing. If you're a small business and you can't afford a full-time marketing team, or you're trying to do it yourself and you're like, this is too much, like you were just saying earlier, you got, bigger things to worry about, we handle all of it for you. So
yeah.
It's
bespoke,
which
I can
is
understand
really
that.
like, yeah. And it's what I like about my role and what we do, like working as an agency owner, we get to work with so many different kinds of businesses. And I get to learn about all these different types of niches, all these different, like, I'll give you an example. So today I got on a discovery call with a company that does metal, like scrap recycling. So if you are doing a big construction project or if you want to like recycle your old tractor or whatever have you, you can take it to them and they will recycle it and repurpose it and keep it in Canada. So they've got this big focus on like creating Canadian jobs and things like that. And like, I wouldn't know anything about scrap recycling. When am I going to learn about that? But because of the work that I do, and because as a digital marketing agency, we have to really do a deep dive with every client about their business, their audience or
Mhm.
customers, the nuances of their specific business versus the competition. And I love nerding out about that. I love the research aspect of that. I love learning about other
Yeah.
businesses and people. Despite the fact that I talk constantly, as you have probably noticed, I am fascinated with other people and I love learning about what other folks do, how they make their businesses run, and then developing strategies based on the things they tell me and taking that like really like high level in-depth
Mhm.
expertise that I have because I've been in this ecosystem for so long and like blending the two, like it's my favorite thing to do. And that's primarily what I do at the company these days. And it's just, yeah, getting to learn and constantly be like figuring things out, problem solving, looking for new ways to optimize based on new inputs is just
Mhm.
I couldn't ask to do anything else, honestly. Like it's so I mean it's stressful, business ownership, you know. Like I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, but I often tell
Sure.
my team, I'm like, you know, my job I'm like my job is to close deals, like get business, develop strategies, keep things running and eat shit. Because when things go wrong, I'm the
Mhm.
person who has to deal with it, right? Like it's my
Right.
responsibility to step in. You know, thankfully, bad things don't happen very often. But if there's ever a conflict with a client or there's some sort of issue with something, that's on me. It's my
Mhm.
responsibility, right? It's my company.
Yeah.
Even if my team messes up, that's still on me because I hired them. They are a representative of my
Mhm.
agency and of that client who is trusting us. So, you know, every so often something comes up that's a little bit stressful, but the days and weeks and months that I just spend doing work that I enjoy and that I feel, I'm sure you can probably like hear it in my voice. Like I really like this,
Yeah.
makes it completely worth it. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking at your site and I can see that you do interact with a wide variety of businesses or
Mhm.
organizations, I guess you'd have to say, because some of these aren't businesses. Um, let's see,
Yeah.
Siloam Mission, Manitoba Museum, Booth University College. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, there's a bunch of other businesses here. There's an insurance business, uh,
Yep.
and a massage business.
They are the largest. Yeah, like there's tons. And again, that's what I love about this is I know so much about all of them, you know,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't be able to develop that knowledge otherwise, but I really feel like the reason that we're able to do the work with such a wide berth of clients across a variety of industries and like lots of nonprofits, you named a couple there,
Right.
post-secondary institutions, a museum, is we dig really deep. Like when I first started working for myself, so Starling came out of me just being a freelancer. And
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you, I never thought I was going to run a business. When I was younger, this probably doesn't, I hope it doesn't come across now, but I used to have crippling anxiety. Like I was having panic
Wow.
attacks all the time. I couldn't have done this podcast. Like just the
Okay.
little chat that we're having, it would have been too much for me. And I remember I was struggling with different jobs. I wasn't a very good employee in the
Mhm.
sense that I've always resented being a butt in a seat. Like there's this like idea when you work for someone else, or at least there was when I was working for other people, that if you're done your work, you
Mhm.
have to ask for more work, or you
Right.
have to like dick around and stretch it out so you don't look like you're slacking off. I one of the reasons that I decided when I decided to start working for myself and I decided to have a remote team is because I don't want the people who work for me to feel like that. I say
Mhm.
when I'm hiring, I say, look, we're 100% remote agency. I don't care when you do your work. What I
Right.
care about is are you doing it well? Are you delivering things on time? And are you available to the client when they need you during, like, I expect you to be available during business hours anytime. If you need to hop on a call, if you need to talk in 20 minutes, that's cool, but I expect you to be available.
Mhm.
But if you like one of our account managers has a couple kids, so she's emailing me things at 11:30 at night because that's when she can get her work done.
Right.
Um, I don't care. You know, like that that idea of like butt in seat really bothered me, and didn't really jive in the 9 to 5 space. So I remember getting my first freelance contract. I got a copywriting contract to write 2 blogs a month for $200. And I remember being like, oh my God, it's so much money. Wow. And right? Like how things change. Inflation is the worst. Anyway, so I remember getting this contract and talking to my boyfriend at the time, now husband. I decided to keep him around. And I remember saying to him, wow, I can't believe like I'm making money on the side and I'm making money doing something that I like. And I remember he's run his own business since he was 19. And he was like, well, Allison, you could always just do that full time. And I was like, oh God, no, I couldn't do that. I can't leave the safety of a 9 to 5, the paycheck every two
Mhm.
weeks. Like I can count on it, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, okay, how about this? Get a couple more contracts and in 6 months, see how you feel. And I got a couple more contracts. And within 6 months, I was like, okay, I'm ready to start getting ready to quit this job. And within a year, I was making more freelancing than I was at my 9 to 5. So I left and I haven't looked back since. It's been great.
Nice. That's
Yeah, it's been
awesome.
a interesting road. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, not everybody's cut out for it, but I can definitely relate to the not wanting to be a butt in the seat. I've done 9 to 5 jobs before, and all. Doing this is, I mean, if I could do this for a living, that would be awesome. I'm sure I could if I put my efforts into it, but because I love meeting people and learning about them and helping them get their word out and all. But
Yeah.
I also love helping businesses in the various ways that I can help them. I have a soft spot for leadership training, and but yeah, it's like people should be free to follow their dreams, to make the most out of
Hmm.
their lives and the gifts God gave them. Um, and that's very different for most people. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, um, cool. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Well, of course, to reiterate, Starling.social is the website. That's where you can find out who they are, what they do, and get some good info on a on the blog post there. I actually shared one with one of your blog posts with a friend of mine already, and
Oh,
so
amazing.
yeah. So yeah, she's an
I am also
attorney,
going
and
to briefly.
I saw that ultimate guide for law firms on Instagram, and she's an attorney. So so yeah, so I shared that out
That was one
with
of
her.
mine.
So that was one of
Amazing.
yours.
That was one of mine. That
Woohoo!
was one of mine, not Alicia. Sorry, Alicia. I also briefly want to pump. So if people are looking for resources, and I mean, it's my job to be on top of everything.
Hmm.
I sit down at my desk in the morning. I have this is my second coffee. My husband makes me coffee every morning. Again, bless his
Aw,
heart. And I know, right? So nice.
yeah.
And I read. I have a Feedly, so I have an RSS reader, and that's the start of my day. But one of the things that I have learned in the 10 years I've been in business, and then, so I'm actually a self taught marketer. As I said, I have a
Okay.
degree in rhetoric, writing, and communications,
Hmm.
but I didn't study marketing. Um,
Right.
I actually got accepted. So in Winnipeg, we have a creative communications program, which is basically like every marketer in the city goes through this program essentially. And I was going to apply. I did apply. I applied and I got in. And at the same time as I got accepted into the program for the following year, one of the instructors actually reached out to me and asked me to speak to first year Crecom students about digital marketing and personal branding and having a blog. And I was kind of like, maybe I don't need an extra $30,000 in student debt. Maybe I can just skip this one because if I'm already speaking at this program, why do I need to
Hmm.
go into it?
Right.
So, um, but that aside, little big flex for me. But because I've been doing this so long, I know that it's hard to stay up to date. And I work with a lot of people in my industry who just don't have the time to like learn about a new algorithm change or what's happening with whatever Elon Musk is doing and how that's affecting their strategy.
Boy.
So I like, right? What a mess. So in addition to the blog, I also have a weekly newsletter that I write myself. You can subscribe to it on our website. And
Cool.
so it's a weekly digital marketing update. So on Monday mornings, again, I sit down with my coffee and I look at the previous week's news and anything that might be breaking and might have broken over the weekend or Monday morning. And I put it together. It's usually got a list of a couple, just breaking news, like, I don't know, there's a new security protocol you should learn about. LinkedIn is updating its API. So if you're using its application program interface, so if you're using a scheduling tool, make sure you refresh it this week, stuff like that, as well as 3 or 4 actual articles with a little blurb about why I think you should read them, because I've read them. And then a little section at the end that's a little weird article from me. You may or may not have picked up on this call. I'm a little weird, and I mean that in a good way. I think weird is a compliment.
Yes.
But I love, I just like finding weird stuff on the internet. I miss the old internet where everything was just weird and new and silly.
Yes.
And so I try and inject a little bit of that into the newsletter. So the rest of the newsletter, even though I write it, always comes from the royal, we at Starling Social, we hope you have a good week, blah, blah, blah. But the little section at the end is always hey, Alyson here. Here's a weird article that I found about these guys in Tokyo who dress up like samurai and pick up trash as part of a performance piece encouraging people in Tokyo to be tidy or whatever. That's literally one that I shared a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
But right. And because I was looking at, I subscribed to a bunch of these similar type of update newsletters. And I was they're informative, but they kind of suck in the sense that they're boring. And a lot of my industry is so people seem almost afraid to show their personality and to lean outside of a LinkedIn post. But when you're speaking as a brand, you can be silly, you can be quirky. It's actually a benefit to you to show the ways that you are different from the competition or other people in your industry by just leaning into the parts of you that are a little bit weird or a little bit out there. And I mean, I have a lot of practice. I've been blogging since I was 12, as you know, so I'm a chronic oversharer. And this part of this newsletter is kind of my way of doing that. And it comes out on Tuesday mornings. One, because Monday means I get to do a little bit of research. And the other big reason I send it on Tuesdays is because I don't know about your inbox, Bill, but I do not need another fricking email on Monday morning. I don't need that. Nobody else needs that. I don't want to be showing up in someone's inbox on Monday being hey guys, do you want to read an update? No one has time for that. It's a Monday. So they come out on Tuesdays as a result. But I would say in terms of trying to as a marketer and as somebody with the experience that I have, my biggest goal is to provide value. So not everybody's going to become a client of mine. Not everybody needs to. But as somebody who lives and breathes what I do, the best way I can help people is by providing value through my knowledge and through the obsession I have with my industry. So the blog is one way, that's kind of the public facing way, but it's long form. But the newsletter is my little baby that I love. And in my view, outside of someone becoming our client and letting us help them in a more hands-on ongoing way, that newsletter for me is the biggest value add that I add as just a professional person, out there in the world. So I do encourage folks, if they're interested in learning more about digital marketing on an ongoing basis from this weirdo, I do encourage them to subscribe. That's probably the best way to do it. See the weird article I'm sharing this week.
I think a lot of people would be better off if they looked at things that way. How can I add value to this conversation? How can I give more? And how can I be worthwhile worth another person's time, as opposed to how can I get attention to myself, and how can I make the bucks, and that kind of thing. But yes, I have subscribed. So I'm looking forward to getting the newsletter.
You will be getting it on Wednesday of next week, because we respect long weekends here at Starling Social. So when you get Labor Day Monday,
Right.
this coming Monday, we have September long coming up in Canada. So you'll get it on Wednesday.
So you have Labor Day this Monday
Tuesday's
too?
the Monday.
You have oh, okay.
We do have some crossover.
Some that
here.
match up.
I think it's Labor Day.
Yeah, it's Labor Day here. I know. Yeah. No, my professor for my class this term is out of Kenya, and he didn't realize that he's literally in Kenya right now, and he didn't realize that this coming Monday was an American holiday, and a North American holiday, to be more general. And so we're having class on Monday. Because everybody else had already scheduled the rest of their week, so it's like, okay, so I got to do an hour-long Zoom on Monday, but that's okay. I wasn't going to do a barbecue anyway because my smoker's broken, but which is very sad.
Oh
no! Yeah, I know. It's a bummer. My smoker's broken.
No.
I lost a bunch of my beer making gear in the move, and then I haven't had an opportunity to replace the pieces that I'm missing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's just terrible. I've got empty kegs in the kegerator.
That is deeply upset. As a big craft beer fan, like that is, I'm choked for you. Oh my goodness. How long have you been doing it for?
Like 7 years. I technically did do some back in the 90s, but that was at a place I think it was in Redondo Beach out in California, that you'd go to the location and you'd pay them the money, and then they'd let you use their brewing equipment. So I didn't actually have any of the equipment, but we brewed a Japanese style beer as part of I used to be part of Cal Poly Pomona's Roast Float organization. I was actually in charge of it for a couple of years, and that was so much fun. But one of the things we did as a group was brew beer, and that was where I first got it. And then like 7-8 years ago, I got the opportunity to get some small beer brewing stuff. It was just to make a gallon at a time, and but it was so much fun. Now I have 5-gallon gear, so and kegs.
So cool. I love that. My husband and I have tried brewing beer a couple of times, and frankly, we suck. I don't know what we're doing wrong. We have tried. We tried using a kit one time, and he actually has a friend here in Winnipeg who runs like a brewery supplies kind of like a store for folks who brew at home. Yeah, and he got us the hops, gave us a list, and we messed it up. I don't know.
Wow.
So I haven't tried it since, but I
think
maybe there's
a lot of instructional resources on the Northern Brewer website, northernbrewer.com, and they have a lot of of stuff where you can just go and learn and stuff. That's where I get most of my stuff
I'll
delivered
have to check
from.
it out. Awesome. We also we know a couple people who own breweries here in the city. My best friend makes some really good homebrew. Like we have resources, Bill. We just haven't taken advantage of them at all. Because we messed up so bad the first time. We were like, let's just leave it to the pros. But when we moved, kind of similar to you, so we didn't lose anything during the move, because I actually used to live across the street from where my house is now. We used to rent the rental house across the street from the house I live in now. So we just moved across the street. It was the easiest move ever. But as we were moving, I mean, like big flex. It was so good. But as we were moving, I was like, oh God, I have this carboy. I have all this brew stuff. We have like 24 like really nice like bottles for when we're bottling. And it's all just like sitting in my basement collecting dust. So I was like, you know what? Got to get it into gear. It's time to like put my big lady pants on and learn to brew some beer, I think.
That's cool.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I lost so much stuff in the move because some stuff just got left behind, and it's kind of like trash the apartment kind of stuff, and we ran out of time to do a full cleanup. So I'm sorry, Juan. It happened. Let's move on. But unfortunately, let's see. I lost not all, but some of my brewing stuff, including one keg. One of my 5-gallon kegs is gone. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know how that happened, but all of my winter clothes.
I'm not
all of my winter clothes, including my parka. I don't have a winter jacket.
Wait a second. But doesn't Missouri, okay, forgive me, Missouri gets cold, doesn't it?
Yes. But California does not.
Okay.
Southern California, it didn't make it. It must have been the stuff must have been in a bag somewhere that just got overlooked. And and when the truck was full, we left. It was like, goodbye, Cali. Yeah, so yeah, I don't even have a winter jacket.
Oh my God. I don't know what you know about the geography of Canada. Winnipeg is like one of the coldest places. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Canada's geography, most of Canada's population lives like right along the US border. Because it's where it's the least cold.
Yeah.
Winnipeg gets very cold in the wintertime. I'm not very good with Fahrenheit, forgive me. We're Celsius up here. But what I do know about Celsius and Fahrenheit is that around it's about minus 40. Fahrenheit and Celsius is about the same. Right. We get to be minus 40 here. It gets extremely cold.
That's
don't
pretty
go
cold.
Outside. It's gonna hurt you. It is. I like to think of myself as like a little hardy prairie person, like a little modern Viking in my big furry coat. I have several fur coats, like big fur coats. And they help, like it works. But oh gosh, the idea of not having like one of my many parkas is like makes me bristle on the inside. I'm already cold for you.
Well, I am going to replace at least some of it before it gets to be winter here. So I'm hoping it'll still be warm enough to get to take advantage of some hot weather sale on cold weather gear. So especially since my brother and I are planning to go hunting this winter. So that's deer hunting's a big thing out here. I bought a huge chest freezer, so I am ready to go out and bag some deer.
Very cool.
Sorry,
that sounds dope.
All you vegan people who watch the show, but you should know by now I love all of God's tasty critters.
You know what? I support that statement. I have never gone hunting yet. Hunting's actually a big thing here. I just haven't had the opportunity. I've never shot a gun. That might be the most Canadian thing I say on this podcast is a gun. It's just not. If you don't hunt here, it's not really a big part of our culture. Most people just don't have one if you don't hunt. Right. And I didn't really grow up with people who hunt. I have some friends who do, so I'm trying to they're like, Alyson, you can't come hunting. Go to a shooting range first. We'll teach you how to use one for real, and then maybe you can try and kill a critter. But I feel like that would be such an interesting experience to have. I would love to know how to go hunting and skin and prep the meat. That sounds like such an interesting process. And as someone who, how did you put it? You love all of God's tasty critters. I do too. And I kind of feel like it would be a good thing to experience what that is like versus I'm going to go to the grocery store after this podcast and buy some beef, that's already been processed and stuff for me. It's almost like going back to nature in a weird way,
Yeah. I think everybody who eats meat should go out and have to kill an animal at some point. with themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, we bought a live turkey for Thanksgiving, and I had to be there when
Wow.
they beheaded it.
Hmm.
And so, and I was little. This was like 8, 9 years old, something like that. And
Oh,
and then
wow.
we went in with some friends and bought a cow, and that had to be slaughtered, and all that. So yeah, so I haven't killed anything myself yet, though. So,
Yeah.
but
But you've been like death adjacent.
I've been death adjacent. Yes.
I will. Yeah. I mean, I will say I have killed something.
Okay.
My husband and I got married. When we got married, so I'm from Winnipeg, and he's from
Hmm.
a city called Windsor, which is across the river from Detroit in Michigan.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know anything about Windsor. It's not exactly like a hotspot of Canadian culture. And Winnipeg being cold and not like I love living here, but Winnipeg's one of those like it's a sleeper city. You have to live here to really appreciate like we have a great music scene. We have more restaurants per capita than the rest of Canada. There's lots of really great things here, but no one's hustling over to Winnipeg. And my husband's family being in Windsor, like I'm not asking my friends and family to go to the Rose City for our wedding. No one's really excited to do
Hmm.
that. So we thought, you know what? Screw it. Let's go somewhere different. Let's go on a hot vacation together. And we went to Belize. My husband and I have been
Okay.
to Belize a few times. There's an island. Yeah, there's an island. It's about 45 minutes by boat off of the coast of Belize called Key Cocker, Caye. And it's about as close to a resort as you can get without being on one. The entire island essentially exists for tourism,
Hmm.
going scuba, snorkeling, sailing, fishing, insert water activity here. The whole island is basically just for tourists. Um, so we got a bunch of folks to go down there, and we're there with, I think, 33 people came, which is a lot for a destination wedding. And this one
Right.
afternoon, we're sitting out on the beach, and a lot of the places you can get your food, like you can go to a restaurant with a chef in a kitchen, but I like street meat. I want to eat like a
Hmm.
greasy hot dog downtown, or like in Thailand, I want to stop at like a random stall and eat sitting on a plastic stool and a metal table where I don't quite know
Yeah.
what's coming out in the bowl of soup. That's
Right.
me. And so we're sitting on the beach, and on Key Cocker, there are dudes who just have big barbecues and smokers just standing along the beach, and they'll sell
Nice.
you like whatever fresh seafood they caught that day. And
Okay.
so I sit down to have lunch, and I'm eating lobster. I live in a landlocked province. I don't get to eat cheap lobster very often. So I just go to Belize and eat lobster for a month. That's my goal.
Right.
I literally like my entire travel goal is to go and eat. That's it. I
Yeah.
want to see
It's a
cool
good
things
goal.
and eat food. Yeah, it's a good vibe. So we're on the beach. I'm going to have this lobster. And we're sitting around this picnic table waiting. And the guy running the restaurant comes over and he's like, okay, who wants to kill their lunch? And my husband, fiance, goes, she does, points at me. And I'm like, you bastard. So, but now I have to do it. So I get up and I put on the gloves, and the guy showed me how to like kill the lobster.
Okay.
So flex for me. I have taken a life. I have, I have interfaced with the food that I ate. It's not quite the same as shooting a deer or beheading a turkey. I will give
Hmm.
myself a small flex for that one. But yeah, so I have at least like done like a little baby step towards it.
Little bit. Little bit. No,
A little bit, a little bit.
the street meat and questionable food is the best. You know,
Oh yeah.
when I was in the Philippines, my then in-laws, they are no longer my in-laws, um, took us to a restaurant that only had three walls. Uh, it was like the
I've
front was
already
just
seen it. I like
open,
it. It's already
and
sounds great.
yeah, no, it was awesome, and I had sisig, and which is kind of, well, I think the term for it would be awful. Not awful as in terrible, but awful as in the part of the animal's body. So like
Oh, I see. Okay.
intestinal type stuff. And yeah, and they
Yeah.
brought it on a sizzling plate, and it was just so good. And I used to get when I was married to a Filipino family. I used to get the weird looks because I enjoyed their food. And some of it, they'd look at me like I was some kind of circus freak because I could eat the balut and the chocolate soup and all that stuff. I don't remember. Dinuguan.
Okay,
That was
balut.
what chocolate
I
soup
draw
was.
the line at balut. Balut is like I will eat most things. Balut. You know what?
Well,
I haven't
it
had the
turns out that
opportunity to try it.
most of the
Yeah.
people that eat balut, most of the time when people are eating balut, it's because they've been drinking. So I assume it would be a lot easier to eat it once you're drunk. So
That's fair. Honestly, Bill, I would have to be. That makes sense because I would have to be obliterated to eat that. I would have to be super drunk. Most things I will eat. You know, like I've eaten like chicken feet, no problem. Like livers, hearts, awful, no problem. Totally fine. There's just something I don't know, man. Just it hasn't come up yet, which is interesting because Winnipeg actually has the biggest Filipino expat community outside of the Philippines. Like we have a ton of Filipino food here and it's all great, but you can't find it on the menu at any restaurant. So I guess I have to like ask some of my buddies maybe. But again, then I have to go out of my way to eat it. Right. And I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. That's the one that like but the rest of their food Filipinos got good grub. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wish there was some. There's so much food missing here in southeastern in the boot heel. Yeah. So no Filipino food. Not that I found so far. No sushi. Yeah. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So and our barbecue joint just closed down. So I'm in a town of. Yeah, I know it's crazy. I'm in a town. Malden has a population of somewhere between 1,400 and 4,200 people. It depends on who you ask. Like the census that I read said 1,400, but the sign, the city limit sign says 4,200. So I don't know who's.
Wow.
I don't know where how many people there are, but. So it makes a lot of sense. We've got a McDonald's, of course. I finally found the coffee joint, but I haven't been yet. No Starbucks. Praise the Lord. Nobody ruining coffee to the best of my knowledge. But yeah.
Really
so.
Barbecue joint, like. I don't know, man. When I think about America, I think barbecue joint. Like that's like all of my friends who like my husband's been to the States for work a bunch. All of my friends who've been to the States, myself, like it's barbecue. Like man. So what's the go-to restaurant? I mean, I guess McDonald's. What's the go-to restaurant in your city or in your town? Like where do you guys go to hang out?
We haven't.
Like a cool bar or something?
We really haven't yet. There's a couple places that I've seen but haven't tried yet. So we'll see as time goes by. Just between the move and trying to catch up from actually moving, I haven't really had a lot of time to go out and enjoy a meal. But what is it? There's one called Chuck's Place, which says full kitchen and bar. So we'll see. Okay. Maybe we'll try Chuck's. And
I do. I hope it's good. I hope it's good just because I love like Chuck's. Like, what do you want to do tonight? Let's go down to Chuck's for dinner. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Terrific.
But anyway, we've been going at this.
My mother-in-law.
Oh no, go ahead. One last story.
Oh, I was just gonna say my mother-in-law hangs out at a place called Charlie's in Windsor, which I love. We hang out at a place called Cousins, which is where we went for dinner last night. I love a little like small locally owned restaurant with like a weird name or something like named after like the guy who owns it, or in our case,
Yeah.
like the cousin who owned it. I just love it. I think that's so it's so charming, and it's nice
Yes.
to have a little watering hole. Yeah, let's go to Charlie's.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. You were
Yeah.
trying to
No,
outro
it's
and I
it's
ruined
okay.
it.
It's okay. Um, yeah, I like those kinds of places too, where maybe they've got a B+ rating from the health department, and they just do what they do, and they do it really well.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, barbecue is, yeah, I couldn't believe it. We got here, tried the barbecue place once. It was okay. It wasn't great. But the people were really nice.
Oh.
And
Mhm.
but yeah, I looked, and the other day, and they were shut down. There were little there the gravel parking lot was blocked off, and
Oh.
everything. And I'm like thinking, maybe I need to open a barbecue restaurant.
I
You
was
know,
gonna say, I feel like you might need to,
change
you obviously have a
change
lot on your plate
industries.
right now. Yeah. There's a market opportunity for barbecue in your
Yeah,
town.
yeah.
I don't know, man. I think you should do
So,
it.
but anyway, we've been at this for more than an hour, which is for a 1-to-1. That's actually a pretty long show for me. Usually the 1-to-1 interviews go for about 45 minutes. So you have gone above and beyond. But so it's great. Once again, it's starling.social is the website, and for all your
Mhm.
digital marketing needs, and head over there, read the blog, sign up for the newsletter, and the link is in the description, so you don't have any excuse for not going over there. And so, as I ask everyone, do you have any final words for the nice people?
Thank you for listening. I recognize that this has been a very long conversation where I probably talked a lot without stopping, and I appreciate your patience and attention. And hope to see you on that mailing list or in my Google Analytics, y'all. Hope you visit the website, and I would love to meet some of you. Also, connect with me on social media. My name is Alyson Shane. You can see it in the description of this episode. It is the same everywhere because that's how long I've been on the internet.
Okay. And I will thank you all for tuning in, whether you watch the video or listen to the podcast. Um, Thanks for sticking with us. Remember to like, comment, share, whatever you got to do to kick that algorithm into gear, so we can get more reach to people, because that's kind of the point of this, is reaching more people. But remember, stay safe out there, wash your hands, and stay tuned for the ending credits.
Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank our producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch.
I, of course, am your humble host.
I'd like to thank my special guest for today, Alyson Shane.
Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever fine podcasts are offered.
Be sure to tune in next time when my special guest will be Braca Getz. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. That is the suicide and crisis lifeline here in the United States.